Have you ever noticed that some days you just can't get the things done that you want to? You push and you try to get things accomplished, but you're just not making the progress that you want to. And you may find that you're becoming more frustrated and you're just not showing up as the person that you want to be. It could be that you're missing some self-care, but you don't know how you're going to fit it in amongst all of the busy things that you have to do. You don't have time for a vacation and you don't have time for time off. But what if there were an easier way to fit in some daily self-care so that you would be able to show up as the person you want to be without the ADHD tendencies taking away from what you want to do in your business? Today we're going to be talking about creating balance habits so that you can feel balanced and centered and purposeful when you show up to work every single day. This is episode number 10, how balanced habits will help you to get more done, be more productive, and enjoy the process. Welcome to Slay ADHD, where we help entrepreneurs recognize the ADHD struggles that are slowing their growth and may be costing them in time, money, and missed opportunities. We'll be teaching you the tools to work around these difficulties while helping you to develop the skills to make real progress and finally build the business you've been dreaming of. This week we're talking about creating balanced habits, how daily self-care will prevent burnout and create steady, sustainable action in your business, helping you to be more productive and enjoy the process along the way. One of the biggest problems with having ADHD and running a business is getting overwhelmed with there being just so much to do. It's not that you can't do all the things, or you could delegate, or you could arrange for everything to get done. We know that you could do that. You'll probably work harder than most other people that you know, but we are also the people who are most likely to ignore our own needs. Then one of two things happens. We have periods of burnout where we don't get anything done, or we keep pushing through and we don't do our best work, missteps, or we just get that feeling of being stalled as we're pushing through. Either way, it is a really inefficient way to produce consistent work, and it causes us to exert way more energy to get even the simplest things done. It just shouldn't be this way. And the real problem is with both of these scenarios is getting caught up in stress and dysregulation, which leads to overwhelm and burnout. What if this year, instead of continuing the push-through burnout cycle, you were able to learn to work in a smooth, easy way while embracing daily moments of recovery and renewal? If you think you don't have time for it, don't feel bad. You're like 99% of the rest of us. Our busy brains try to convince us that we have to rush if we're going to be successful. While there may be days where you do have to rush because there's an emergency or a deadline that needs to be met, the truth is that if we're always rushing and we're constantly in crisis mode, then it's just a matter of time before that crash happens. You might be lucky and it'll be at the end of a project, like when you finished with finals week in college and then you got sick. But if you're constantly working with no end in sight and not taking care of your nervous system because you're not taking care of yourself, the crash could be more serious. It might not happen at a convenient time. Think about what that could mean. When you're running a business, there are likely so many things that you are accountable for. You may have times when you're feeling the pressure of trying to remember 20 different things all at once. And since you're the owner, you know the buck stops with you, so you better give it your all of you, all of your time, all of your attention, and all of your energy. And you probably know that this is not sustainable. And you may be leading to burnout, but you don't know what else to do. You're a responsible person and you're not going to let your customers or your employees down. You push through because it feels like the most responsible thing to do. It feels like you don't have a choice. You might just be caught up in a frantic rush and then crash cycle, though. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Unfortunately, it's really common for people like us with ADHD to get caught up in dysregulation. When we're worried that we're not going to get everything done or that we won't be enough, we push ourselves past our reasonable limits, sure that if we can just get to a certain point, then we can rest or take a vacation and then everything will be okay. But sometimes that rest comes as sick days because we've been pushing ourselves for so long that we crash. Our body just isn't meant to stay on that high alert for long sustained periods. It may have felt like it worked in the past, and maybe it did, but eventually it all catches up to you. The reason I'm teaching you about balanced habits today is I want to help you to protect yourself, your health, and in doing so, protect the longevity of your business. The beauty of learning self-care through balanced habits is that it helps you to show up as a balanced, whole, complete person. You'll be more regulated. You'll be able to get more done. You'll be more productive, and you'll have less stress. You'll make less mistakes. You're less likely to crash or hit that ADHD wall where your mind just goes completely blank at a really important moment. I developed the concept of balanced habits when I had a period of my life when I was frantically trying to grow my business, working harder than ever, trying to make sure I didn't let anyone down, while making sure my kids had all that they needed, not wanting them to feel like they were missing out on anything, just because I was trying to build a business to support them, no big deal, but also feeling like my clients needed all of my attention also, and they deserved all of me also. I recognized that the busier I got, the more easily frustrated I would get. Little things made me angry at myself and at other people. This was not who I wanted to be. On top of this, I noticed that the harder I pushed to try to be enough, the more my brain would rebel. I was forgetting things more and more often, then getting caught up in that self-criticism, self-blame, which led to fear that I couldn't do it all or be enough or be what I thought that I should be. Luckily, I reached a point where I chose to stop and ask myself, what am I missing in my life that I used to do that helped me to feel more in control like I used to feel? There are 4 things that I found that made a huge difference. I decided that these things are my balanced habits, the habits that would keep me feeling balanced, feeling present, and able to do what I needed to do in a way that felt good to me and I was okay with. In other words, these are the things that I need to do on a daily basis in order to show up at my best. If I ever start forgetting any of these things, I start to slip into dysregulation and anger, and stress starts all over again, and then it takes over my life. I'll explain each of these 4 things and see if you think that they might relate to you and might be something that you could use also. The first thing I need is personal inspiration time. As people with ADHD, we're highly intuitive, and we can be really in touch with the divine and with inspiration as it comes to us. But we need to have time to allow that inspiration and intuition truly to talk to us and to help us to make those choices. For me, I need to have prayer every morning. I need to be able to invite inspiration into my life through prayer. I also need to read inspirational books. I start with scriptures, and then I have other books that I read also, both self-help books, inspirational books that are religious, and I have business-minded inspiration books. If I'm spending time reading, that's when inspiration and intuition can hit. That's when I feel better about the actions that I'm taking in my business because I feel more in tune. The next thing is I have to move my body. That's where I need exercise. I work at a desk, so I am sitting or standing at my desk all day long, which is not a lot of movement. Standing doesn't count for movement, by the way. I had a doctor one time that said I needed to take, like every hour, step away and just run around the house or walk, move, go to another room, something. And I do try to do that. I have some movement that I like to do at my desk. I have some stretching exercises. The third thing that I need is that social time, family time, whether it's calling my children or spending time with my husband, just sitting and talking, or going out with a friend and taking a walk. Having that little bit of time to just connect with other people away from work, to connect with who I am as a person, and to remind myself that I'm more than just, a business owner. I'm a person who has relationships and friendships that need to be nurtured and cared for. And when I do that and I come back to work, it's a lot easier to get back into whatever needs to be done next. The fourth thing is really important but can be really tricky, and that is sleep. I understand that with ADHD, it is really hard to turn our brains off and go to sleep at night. What I mean by sleep being an important habit, it's the setting up for sleep. It's making sure that I unwind 45 minutes before I'm wanting to be asleep, that I'm putting away all of the electronics, that I'm talking to the people that I need to and finishing whatever conversation I need to with my husband or with people that I might be out at a meeting with, that I'm doing what it needs to calm myself down and relax. I might do some journaling. I might do some reading. Setting myself up with an evening ritual to be able to wind down so that when I do lay down to go to sleep, I can stay asleep, hopefully the whole night long until the alarm goes off. Whole nother story. I know it's not perfect. There are still days when I stay up really too late and I have to pay for it the next day. But again, this is why I created these habits to get to a really good place. All of these things don't have to take a lot of time, but you do need to dedicate some time for each of these things. However they look in your life. It is your life. You decide what habits you really need by experimenting with each of these. Your survival brain may try to convince you that you don't have time for extra things like this, but it may just be stuck in survival mode. This happens to me a lot. I go back and forth between feeling too busy to take care of myself and then recognizing that if I don't fit in some self-care in whatever area that has been getting neglected lately, while I've been so busy, then I know that crash will happen. For me, that crash looks a lot like forgetting parts of something that I'm working on, getting frustrated and feeling like I just can't make progress, and that I'm taking on too much and refusing to delegate. Yes, that is a problem. I know when I'm feeling dysregulated, I don't trust other people to give away something that needs to be done, or I don't trust myself to spend the time to explain to them what needs to be done, thinking it's just faster to do it myself. That's just dysregulation talking. I'm also worried that I might get angry and then say something that I'll regret later. You don't want to do that in business. These are all things that I'm better off without having a part of in my life. And I'll bet that some of you might be feeling the same way also. I also start to recognize that my body was hurting in ways that were related to holding on to too much tension. I would get stiff up in my shoulders and in my neck. I feel this kind of weird tension in my solar plexus that I recognize that strictly is just stress. Sometimes it turns into a headache or stomach problems. You might feel this in other parts of your body, but I challenge you to pay attention the next time you're feeling stressed out and notice where it's showing up in your body. By recognizing where stress manifests in your body, then the next time you have some pain or tension in something, you can recognize that that means you might be a little stressed out and maybe some of these little balanced habits are missing in your life. And it's time to find a way to put them back in. I want to invite you to give yourself permission to care for yourself as much as you care for your business, trusting that by doing so, you will create greater efficiency in the way that you work, a greater sense of satisfaction in your life, and by caring for your basic needs as a person and a business owner, you'll be able to find a flow in your day that leaves you both feeling productive and really enjoying the process of doing the work that you do. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today and you've found any of this to be helpful, please share this episode with a friend that you think could relate to these issues and rate us or leave a review. It helps others to find us. And if you're ready to dive deeper, I invite you to check out my free masterclass that can give you a better understanding of how ADHD shows up in business and what to do to move past these problems. Until next time, I wish you an enjoyable, purpose-filled week.